Yo mensen, Eden hier en superleuk dat je allemaal kent naar mijn helemaal mijn vlogvideo hier op het kanaal. En vandaag ben ik in Colosseum van Rome. Ja, we hebben een rondleiding door Colosseum. En ik heb een groene sticker op mijn jas. Ja, dit hier is de Colosseum van Rome, dames en heren. Ja, de mooie. Ja, vond je het leuk hebben dan zin in, doe vast een duimpje omhoog. Abonneer op mijn kanaal. En dan zeg ik veel kijkplezier.
This is the inclined wall we have here. It's a modern wall, 1800. It's a support to avoid the further collapse. But it was a perfect ellipse, so close all around. The original height is where you were just before. 5 floors, 52 meters high. And here should keep going on. But here the soil is weaker, so it began to collapse in the Middle Age. And at that time, nobody cared anymore for the Colosseum. Instead, it was a perfect quarry of materials. In that centuries, the idea of archaeology didn't exist, but the one of recycling, yes. So they recycled the Colosseum, taking away, first of all the seats. Because the seats, the sitting area, the big steps where the people sat, were not made of stone, but marble. So very expensive. Tons and tons of free marble for the Middle Age and Renaissance city. And then also the tunnel here was for the gladiators. They used it for this because it was directly linked with the most important gladiator school of Rome, the Ludus Magnus. This building here. It's just some ruins are just outside here. Have you seen over the street in front of the Colosseum, where the street curves? There are some brick walls in a lower garden. So it's what's left from the Ludus Magnus. It was very big instead. You see only maybe a fourth part of the whole. And it was a squared building where the gladiators lived and trained. So in the central courtyard, there was a mini amphitheater, a little Colosseum inside for the trainings. Because there are holes on the ground, machines to bring down the goods, like the cage of the animals and the signals. We will see the reconstruction of a hoist soon. This is a reinforcement made of iron, so it's still the original Roman iron. Here nobody plundered anything, because the undergrounds had been buried by the Romans themselves. So when the Middle Age arrived, people forgot the existence of undergrounds. The undergrounds were buried about the end of the 5th century, and they stood buried till the beginning of 1800. They tried to begin excavated, but they got all this excavated just in the 30s of 1900. So you can still find on the internet black and white photos of the Colosseum with the arena, the stage still made of earth. So it's down here not. So maybe the grounds more like this, darker. They have only torches and oils. And not so much, because there are a lot of... And there, this is the route of 15 kilometers to be used. This is a really great time. There were breaks in the ground. And here are the machines, and also were machines, wheels with bullets, to loosen things over the legs to transport down.
Dames en heren, ik ben nu onder de grond van de Colosseum. En dat is dat. Dames en heren.
I wouldn't drink it, but It's an underground river. It's a natural spring. The spring is under the Middle Age Church of San Clemente, nearby the Colosseum. And it always passes, little rivers like this always pass through this valley, running down to the Tiber. This one, instead trying to cut it from here, the Romans included the river into the underground. So this is the Roman channel. And it runs all around the underground. It was useful to have some water here, maybe to extinguish fires or just to sweep the dirt inside. So it just runs quietly to the opposite side where it goes out to the Tiber. And under us, there was, however, a very complicated draining system and sewer system, because imagine that all the walls you see of the Colosseum were covered by seats, by steps. So just imagine a football stadium, but where the chairs are not made of plastic and it's marble. So it collects a lot of rainwater. Artificial pond of the Emperor Nero. This is what was here. Nero, have you probably heard about him for burning Rome? Actually, we don't think that Nero really burned Rome, probably was just an accident. But however, the idea came to the Senate because Nero took for himself 80 hectares of the center for a new imperial residence. So it was very easy to give him the shot. And Nero occupied all this area. All the hills that you see surrounding now the Colosseum were occupied by Nero's new residence. Here were just the gardens, 1 hectare lake here. But after Nero's death, he was condemned to the oblivion. He was considered an enemy of the Roman Empire, and nobody else used his residence. There was a civil war the year after. They changed 4 emperors in a year. They all killed except the 4th one, Vespasian. Vespasian was the first man of the Flavian family to become an emperor. So he needs a powerful propaganda to avoid being the 4th killed that year. So Vespasian is this one here, and he is the man who began to build the Colosseum, draining the lake of Nero. The Colosseum was inaugurated in the 80 AD. So it's not already 2,000 years old. Maybe for the little one, he could check it when in the 2080 is the birthday of the Colosseum, 2,000 years. So do you know how much time needed Vespasian to build this? Would you like to guess? Or maybe you already know? Official. It was not completely finished actually, but you know, you inaugurate public buildings before they are finished, just for propaganda. 8 years, however, is crazy for building the largest amphitheater of the world. This is the largest amphitheater ever built in the world. The building began in the 72 and the opening was in the 80. But it wasn't Vespasian to inaugurate it. He died. So Domitian built all the walls and the corridors of the undergrounds and the last 2 floors. Rome needed a lot of capacity, had already 1 million inhabitants. So let's go to see. So if you want, you can come closer so also the people behind can see it. This is the reconstruction of one of the hoists, the lifts of Domitian's time. These 15 corridors hosted elevators. Can you see the marks on the walls? Here were machines, just like the one there. 28 of that machines. 2 floors, because the undergrounds had 2 floors. At this high, there was a second wooden floor. Now this is a door, actually. So people walk here. At the beginning, there were only stones here, travertine and tufa stones. So these are the oldest walls of the undergrounds, 1st century. In the 3rd century, in the 2017, there was a terrible fire here that started from the underground, torches and oil lamps. But it damaged seriously the Colosseum, and there had been also an earthquake. So they had to close the Colosseum for 5 years for restoration works. In that occasion, they rebuilt partially the undergrounds, and they added a lot of brick patches. And they continued for the next 2 centuries. So the brick walls are mostly between the 3rd and the 5th century. The arena was heavy. and then maybe some earthquakes. And the uses, however, of the structures, they sometimes just menaced to collapse. So from time to time, from century to century, they had always to reinforce and to make the walls thicker and thicker till it was quite impossible to move here. Following the wheel, they pull the pulleys to lift, in this case, a cage. Can you see there is a cage down there? So they lift a cage to the stage. But there were also elevators with, you can come closer if you want. So can you see the whole of the elevator there? So here was another of that machines. This is the original Roman iron as well. And if you look better, there is a name carved on the edge, on the right. Can you see the Roman number 8 carved there? Because the elevators were numbered. Here was dark, it was impossible to communicate, and you couldn't just do what you want. They had a plan of the games, so you had to be sure about what to do and when to do it. Gaps that you are going to see now by passing by were elevators, were lifts, access to the arena. On top of this one of this opening, there was a mobile trapdoor on the arena. So they are really a lot. And the white stones kept in the center are the rails, is where the ropes passed through. So tall people, watch out your head here. Can you see the entire gallery of elevators? All the openings to the arena with the trapdoors on the top. They are not very big. So the biggest thing you could lift here maybe was a bear stuck into a cage. That they could see alive, for example, tigers from India, Bengala tigers, lions, but also hyenas, camels, elephants, rhinos, hippopotamus, giraffes, crocodiles when they had the water games, everything you can imagine. Also just funny animals, were not only predators. There were also chickens, farm animals. Have you ever seen a Bengala tiger hunting chickens? No. So that was also funny. They had also that kind of games. And bears, because a lion is really expensive. Capturing a lion alive is for naval battles. So you could also see ships here on water. Maybe not true ships, of course, not Roman war ships, but little boats just built for the size of the amphitheater. And just few times, that's just too complicated and useless. Just for propaganda, because Rome had already a pool for naval battles. It was nearby the Vatican, in the today quarter of Trastevere. There was a giant pool directly connected by a channel to the river, so much easier, more practical. This is just to show that if you want, you can't. I do what I want. This side there are service tunnels, larger, mostly for the scenery, the big painted tunnels. But on the opposite side, where there was the imperial docks, there was a box from the emperors. In the underground, there is a corresponding underground tunnel. The emperors had secret exits. If they didn't want to be seen or leave passing through the crowded square, they could descend to the underground and exit that way. So if you remember the movie Gladiator, this is the place where conspirators attempt to the life of Commodus, the bad guy of the movie, the Emperor Commodus. It is true that Commodus used it to fight, dress up like a gladiator here in the amphitheater, and was absolutely not suitable for an emperor. He shouldn't do that, but he did. Also the wall to there is the original stone wall. Then we have bricks, broken pieces of marble. And look how little this door became, because also the ground grew higher. They used it to build over the old ground, 1 and 2 and 3, and this is just for child. Huh? They are waiting for you to go to the arena to fight. They call for you. That remember restoration works made also by the Romans. They used the Colosseum for 5 centuries. So they rebuilt and restored it several times. This is one of the last. Here we are at the end of the 5th century. We had no more emperors here in Rome, but there were still senators. The Gothics were not that barbarian. They were the successors of the Roman Empire. So after an earthquake, this man with that long name restored the Colosseum. Here is written terremotus ruina, so ruined by an earthquake. These are the newest of all bricks. So they are from the 30s of 1900, from Mussolini's time. Also Mussolini did many works here around of the Colosseum. Actually, he destroyed some parts of the Colosseum because he wanted to modernize also the city, building the first underground train. The line B that you can pick outside here was partially excavated already at Mussolini's time. So even if it's called B, it's the first one of Rome. The A is the second one. I don't know why. But they were not so careful with archaeology, so the train just ran a few meters away from that wall. They destroyed some of the drains and the tunnels. Have you seen in the square outside the Arch of Constantine, the big Arch of Constantine? One of the axes of the arena. When we entered, we were under the other door over there. But this was the main entrance. This is the so-called triumphal gate. In the morning, they used it to open the day with a triumphal parade. So some famous gladiators, animals, musicians, acrobats entered this way. Then they began with animals, because as you have seen, there is not space enough for animals. So unfortunately, they were not very ecologist, so they had to kill all the animals within the morning. Yeah. They just hunted the animals. It was a sport, and they loved hunting animals, not keeping animals, unfortunately. And they were hunted by hunters, not by gladiators. Were special fighters called venatores, and they trained in a special school just with animals. They could also let animals fight each other. So maybe let's see who is stronger, a tiger or a lion. And they made a lot of illegal gamblings also. Or the animals could hunt people also, because one of the death penalties in the Roman Empire was the damnatio ad bestias, so the condemned to the animals. They didn't feed the animals the day before, of course, and they made the animals be nervous, they provocate the animals, so when they came out on the arena, they wanted to eat everybody they had in front of them.
We gaan nu met de trap lopen, dames en heren. Dames en heren, ik ben nu boven in het Colosseum. De Colosseum van Rome.
There you will be able to walk the last half till the end. Are just in front. The archaeological area in front over the square. So your ticket is valid also tomorrow.
Dames en heren, de rondleiding door Colosseum van Rome was super leuk. Allemaal interessante verhaaltjes en leuke verhaaltjes over Colosseum van Rome. Ja. Dames en heren, de Colosseum van Rome was super leuk. Ja, en ik heb dit gekocht, zit in dit zakje. Ja. De rondleiding door Colosseum van Rome was super leuk. Ja, allemaal leuke en interessante verhaaltjes van de Colosseum van Rome. Ja, allemaal leuk, interessante verhaaltjes. En leuke verhaaltjes van de toeriste mevrouw. Daniella heet ze. Ja, was super leuk. Ja, en dit was het, dames en heren. Ik sluit deze video af. Vond je het leuk? Klik dan een duimpje omhoog. Abonneer op mijn kanaal. Klik op het belletje bij mij. Like op deze video. Laat in de reactie weten hoe de wereld het leuk vindt. En ja, en dan zeg ik dan, doei allemaal. Doei!